Well, welcome back, folks. I'm going to call this short video a shop talk, even though we're going to be discussing two items off the YL1, which you see here, the fuel tank and the engine mount, front engine mount. I just got these back from the rechromer a few days ago, and if you've been with me for a while, you might recall last summer, it'd be summer of 2019, I had gotten all my chrome back for the YL1 from a local chrome shop, and they went out of business before they'd finished my project. They had gotten all the chrome work done, completely done, with the exception of the fuel tank, which they had only gotten through nickel when I picked up the parts. They actually called me and told me, or asked me to come get my parts because they were shutting down in a few days. So after I picked up the parts, just a way of refresher, everything was in reasonably good condition, the chrome work job that they'd done, with the exception of the engine mount here. This is the strut that goes from the front bottom of the engine up to underneath the steering head. It supports the engine. And you may recall that this, when I got it back, had rust already forming around this joint right here, where these two components were welded together. There was rust in here, and there was even rust, significant rust, around this end as well. So I was totally dissatisfied with the quality of the work done on that engine mount. However, as the firm was, by this point, really out of business, there's really nothing I could do with this outside of having it re-chromed. The fuel tank, they had gotten through nickel, but was not finished. So I did find another chrome shop a couple hundred miles away in another state that was willing to finish the work for me. That being re-chroming this engine mount and finishing the chrome on the fuel tank. The only issue, I suppose, is it took, well, almost 6 months, 5 months or so to get these parts back. Not that I was in a terrible rush, especially for the fuel tank, because I can't finish the painting on this tank anyway until the weather gets warm. This is midwinter of 2020. The engine mount is okay. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's okay. And we'll go ahead and install this at a later date. You'll see that in an upcoming video. That is the installation of that engine mount. The fuel tank is okay as well. The issue I have with the fuel tank is there's all now rust inside of it, surface rust. And before I sent this fuel tank off to the first chromer, I had cleaned the inside thoroughly using electrolysis to remove the rust that had accumulated in there over the years. There was quite a bit, and this inside of this tank was pristine when I sent it off. I stripped it down to raw steel and then had sprayed it down liberally with WD-40 to prevent surface rust from reforming. And what I think happened is, as I understand it, to chrome fuel tanks, and by the way, neither one of these shops were wild about doing fuel tanks. Both of them had said they don't care to do fuel tanks. They're hard to do. But apparently what they do is plug all the openings, fill the tank with water, and have to submerge it using water as a means to pull the tank down into their plating tank. And obviously I think they left water in it, and it's started to re-rust, as you can see here. So I'm going to have to address that over the coming weeks and months, and that is stripping this rust away. I think what I will probably do on the rust is seal the tank, reseal the tank, and then treat it with evaporust. This isn't a rust buildup, it's just surface rust, and I'm hopeful that evaporust will clean that surface rust up so that I don't have to use electrolysis again, which I will do if necessary, but I prefer to avoid it. The other thing I'm going to need to do is obviously paint the tank, and before I can do that, there's some dents here minor surface dents that will have to be repaired. And you might recall I had worked on these dents in a previous video again last summer, where I pulled them out. This one in particular on the top was very significant, and I pulled them out to the point now that I can use body filler to, after of course, condition the chrome, because I'm not going to paint over polished chrome like this. There's a strip of paint that will run something like this over the middle and on the bottom. And I'll have to do some body work filling first, and eventually I'll end up repainting the tank. There's also some rust on the bottom. You can see right there in the middle that this is just surface rust also that I can clean up. This will all be painted, be primed and painted also when I get to that point with the project. So the only real negative I would say on the fuel tank right now is the fact that it's got rust on the inside. Not insurmountable certainly, but a little bit disappointing. That's something I had anticipated that will have to be addressed. So I do have the parts back. That's good news, and we'll get on with mounting the strut in another video, and very likely you'll see me doing some of the work on repairing the dents and getting the tank painted, which will be one of the very last things, will probably be the last thing that will go on the bike some months down the road. That's it for this video today, folks. Any thoughts, questions, comments, feel free to drop me a note. Otherwise, as usual, thanks for watching.